close. Go, you're on.
This is I'll add one father and son story.
Say who you are and your father's name. And the date. And the
Today?
location. No, not today. The date when it happened and the location.
This father-son story takes place before I went to Lawrenceville. My daddy and I went up to Fontana Lake near the Fontana Dam, up in the mountains, foothills of the Smokies, where there was a big TVA dam called Fontana. We took our 18-foot old-town canoe with a square back with a Martin outboard motor on the back. And we had arduously repainted the canoe the summer before in the garage, another father and son activity. And we had a pup tent, sleeping bags, our fishing gear, fishing tackle boxes, and rods and reels. And we packed it all up. The boat was on a trailer, got in the car, drove up to Fontana. And when we arrived, and Daddy would back he had an old Buick Fireball motor, 4-door. It was on the trailer with the canoe was on a trailer hitch onto the back of the Buick, and he backed the car down with the canoe on it, on the trailer, and backed the car down a ramp so that we could float the boat into the water of a river. We did this many times on the Tennessee River down at Choteau Dock, or in this case, it was near, not too far from the Fontana Dam. And I don't think we'd ever fished this lake any other time. We had fished another lake up near Oak Ridge, Tennessee, that had red clay and very clear water, very, very green because of the red clay that the water, transparent water, could see the bottom of the lake. This day, Daddy backs the Buick down. We get out, and when the trailer's in the lake, the boat floats up. Then you push the boat off, float it. You edge the boat, the canoe, into the water, and it floats. Because it's floating, it's easy to maneuver into the water. You get the boat into the water and put down the anchor, and then walk all the equipment and the duffel bags and the tent, however you're carrying the tent, the tackle, fishing tackle boxes and rods and reels and all that stuff. Raincoats, whatever we needed. We start loading up, wade into the water, load up the canoe, and then get in. And pull off the motor. The Martin motor always started up, no problem ever. And then we get into the boat, paddle out into deeper water, and then off we go. And the motor, the boat's pretty much loaded down, but no problem, not up to the gunnels hardly, really. Off we went. Finally, we went down the lake, found a little cove where we decided it'd be a nice place to camp out. The lip of land from with the nice trees, beautiful trees all around. We said let's camp there. So we'd have to walk up the hill from the water once the boat was tied up to some branches or something, or some bushes near the edge of the lake. We got the boat all tied up. So then we got out of the canoe, walked up the hill, carrying our stuff, with all the stuff with the pup tent, the guy lines, the little poles that we put in the ground to hold it in place. So we got up to the top of this little lip of land that went out. And said, this is a good place to camp. So then we made we got some rocks and sticks and built a little place for a fire to cook out on. Took all our gear out, set up the pup tent, put the poles in the ground, the stakes, and raised the tent. Everything was hammered into place. And about that time, we looked down down the lake toward the place that we put in, and lo and behold, a huge, dark storm is blowing up the lake toward us. White water gradually blowing up the lake as this huge, dark, almost, slate blue, dark clouds, storm clouds just moving up the lake right toward us, and the wind starting to blow. And so we said, uh-oh. So the rain starts. So we had to get into the tent. Now, many boys with their fathers, my age, might have that's the time that they might have heard their fathers talk about their experiences in World War II. But my father, though he wanted to join one of the services, was told he was too old. He was 38 when he was still farming back in Marshall County, Missouri, near Marshall, Missouri. So he was barred from going to the Second World War. Many boys would have heard their father confess maybe having had to kill somebody or being wounded, explain how he got wounded and how maybe his buddies saved his life. No, this is not. This is just me and my dad in a pup tent with pouring rain coming down, the pup tent filling up with a little water on the sides. We're trying to always scoop the water, get the water out, just as one might have tried to get water out of a boat. Just me and my dad. So it was too much rain for us to cook out anything. So we opened a can of baked beans. We ate cold baked beans and just talked and made sure we were warm. and kept managed to keep from getting wet and soaked, or letting any more water into the pup tent. What we could, we scooped out with cans, and we just poured out the side, so the pup didn't get filled up with our sleeping bags, or clothes didn't get wet, and we just spent the night in there, father and son. I was not frightened at all in his presence, because I felt he could take care of any extremity, any emergency. I had absolute confidence in my father. So we were just him and me. And he was so busy and away so much, working, and always working at home on preparing for concerts, preparing for classes that he taught. He taught composition, he taught flute students, he taught first year theory, which is really another word for harmony, first year harmony, and he taught counterpoint and conducting to some very good students. So, and it was, I think, that night that he told me about this girl who stayed at the apartment they had in Evanston, named Lydia, who had slept in one of the cubicles, and she seduced him, and she'd come into his place he slept, and they'd be making love, all night, all in the early hours of the morning while his parents slept, and the other people who were paying for room and board, and they're the parents of the Van Vactor apartment in Evanston. My father was doing his pre-med studies, and going through Northwestern, and then so he'd be making love to Lydia, who was probably about 35 years old, 31 or something. I don't know what she did. I don't think she wasn't going to Northwestern or doing graduate work or anything. But she liked my dad. And he told me that she got pregnant and had to have an abortion. So there would have been another son or daughter or sister for me, but wasn't to be. And he told me the story of how Lydia, after Raven, my sister Raven, whose real name was Adrian, who was called 80, after 80 was born, Lydia stopped by and asked if she could take 80 out for a drive. She wanted to meet her. So he let Lydia take 80 out, and she went out, took her out for ice cream or something, and then took her back home and said, "What a beautiful little girl, Dave." And that was that. And another story, a little bit more negative, is when my mother and sister and I were staying at the Grand Hotel in Florence, Italy. My father was due to come and meet us there at the hotel, coming from Amsterdam, where he had been with his wannabe opera star lover, and we waited there on the assigned date for him to arrive from Holland, and we waited and waited and waited for like 3 days. He never showed up. We kept going to the desk. I keep going to the desk at the hotel and received any message. No. We called the airlines. No information. And finally, 3 days late, he shows up. No excuse. Obviously, the woman involved, that he was involved in, had held him up, didn't want to let him go. And it was very painful for us, for my sister, who's later called herself Raven, for Raven and my mother and me. The worry just intense. But that's the way my dad was. Just like the story about when he was supposed to pick up my mother, coming back from seeing her mother in Chicago at the L&N station, and was with the viola player. She was the viola player, drunk as a hoot owl. Nicholas! That's it.